Hello, myself Sundaram Bashir. Basically, we are discussing on the topic that is city creation. City creation. Basically, we are discussing on the topic that is this file creation. This file basically we are discussing actually. Here basically we are discussing the management masters group basically who are basically into the master basically into management basically. Here basically the management blood basically is there basically which is created. How you are going to manage the stuff basically. For example, Prime Minister of India basically. There are people basically how they are managing the stuff basically. Because to manage the thing basically you should know each and every technique basically. Each and every technique, each and every power, each and everything basically you should know. That is the thing basically. That is different thing basically. So here basically we are discussing what basically world matrix, that is 100 crore matrix. That means 100 crore matrix means one matrix is 1000 buildings basically in Bangalore city which is managed by Microsoft matrix. And Microsoft have total matrix. Assume that basically Microsoft have some total matrix of 1000, and from 1000 basically he basically is managing this Bangalore city basically. That is Bangalore 1000 building. That is basically merged with this Microsoft energy basically. So here thing is then basically the energy matrix, and that basically is all above matrix is how basically it is managed. That is in the written format basically. Written format means I will take one example. Assume that basically Bangalore city have thousands buildings basically, and from 1000 buildings they told that basically Microsoft told that basically we are managing these buildings. So for that basically to manage basically you should know basically what you are managing. Without that basically you are going to manage basically blindly basically you can't manage the thing. So you should know what actually you are managing. And that is what? That is the management basically. So requirement, what actually you want to do. For example, one person told that I am managing this software company. So you should know na, actually what you are going to manage. You should at least little bit you are basically not going to involve into each and every stuff basically. Means you are not going to involve into manager stuff, you are not going to into software delivery stuff, you are not going to involve into programming stuff, you are not going to involve into quality level stuff. You are going to manage the stuff basically, but you for to manage basically you should know little bit basically, so that basically nobody can make you fool basically. For example, I am basically worked as a software delivery head also basically, but currently basically not working in a software company. So I am basically searching for job in the software company. So here what is the stuff basically, here the thing is you should manage the stuff basically. So to manage the each and every stuff basically it's very difficult basically. Here the thing is one person told that how basically the Microsoft group is managing the 1000 buildings. So he should know how many 1000 buildings are, sorry, the 1000 buildings are there. So 1000 buildings are created. That basically he is not supposed to aware, but he should know basically how it is created, from which energy basically these 1000 buildings are connected, because each and every buildings in this world basically are connected with the nuclear power companies, and nuclear power companies are connected with the set of power companies and the energy companies. So he should know that here the manager is. Here basically I'm just taking the example basically. Then basically the it's India basically. So in India basically the management stuffs basically are mostly basically they are basically given to the IITs, IIMs and big level of India's university. Then basically if very costly basically buildings are there, they basically are given to the Harvard and Oxford basically, because they are very highly educated basically. But IITs and IIM are also basically very highly educated. It's not like that basically they are not highly educated. But the IITs and IIM basically groups involved into the government level stuff basically. They basically not involved into the private level stuff, because their education are up to that level basically. Then how they basically can. So that basically, but if Harvard is involving and Oxford is involving in the Bangalore city, because Microsoft is what basically? Microsoft is US based company basically. So he is mostly basically going to prefer Harvard and Oxford basically for USA management basically. From USA these buildings are getting managed. Na? So he will not prefer the IITs and IIM. In India basically they mostly basically will not prefer MBA, sorry, Harvard's and Oxford basically. Why? Because the cost basically is very high, and according to the India basically they basically can't afford the stuff basically. So only US basically can afford that basically. And USA based software companies, if the buildings are very highly rich people basically, then mostly basically the Oxford and Harvard also group basically can apply. So here basically that is the cost of basically requirements basically, that also you can say. So that is different stuff. That is totally different stuff basically. But that basically is the main stuff also basically, that also you can say. Then basically the thing is, Microsoft told that basically we are going to manage this 1,000 buildings. So we have all the requirement, which kind of blood cells are there, which kind of people basically are, which kind of categories are there. Category means which type of people are doing what. They are basically from doctors, they are basically from medical industry, they are basically from which industry, software industry, industry, whatever industry, medicine industry, then basically textile industry, whatever industry basically they are, whether they are into the management industry only, or basically they are having their own companies. So that everything data basically they require, they basically collected. Then basically they have to send the ideas also basically, if they are basically working from home. Nowadays basically the system has become like that basically. Previously the commercial basically area only basically gets the ideas according to the type of companies basically, but nowadays the work from home also basically started. So they have to think up to that level, because work from home basically 25%, 30% people basically are working from home basically nowadays. So they have to think up to that level also, because when the person basically is thinking and in one room basically, he should get some proper ideas basically. Proper idea means he can basically move to proper roadmap basically, so that basically the construction, so that the creation basically will become construction. It should be good constructed basically ideas basically, or basically when he is doing some work basically, it should be perfectly basically mapped also, that also you can say. Perfectly mapped means, I will take one example. I will take off one perfectly mapped data. One chartered accountant person basically started solving the problem. He basically solved the problem just in one first attempt only. Like this, basically he solved the every problem basically in first attempt, and then basically cleared the exam also in first attempt. So that blood cells basically came into picture in front of the energy group basically. They basically collected that energy and dumped into the environment. So whenever basically the group who are basically into the first attempt ideas basically, that means the energy group who created the energy basically, they know that basically he will basically going to solve the problem in just first attempt only. So they basically attracts that person's body basically, that person's energy basically into this, that student basically is doing the study basically. So like this basically he attracts and he basically solves in first attempt. So this is basically the construction, the perfectly mapped management basically you can say. So like this thing basically the Microsoft have to do, and then basically Microsoft are experts basically in this. So here basically I'm just taking basically how the management stuff basically, just to give the one example basically what of the management basically. And this everything basically normal person basically can do. He basically can't do the thing basically. Why? This type of thing basically normal person basically can't do. They only basically this only those groups basically can do who are basically into perfect management basically. Without perfect management basically it's very difficult to do the stuff basically. So you can just imagine basically the thing basically which I have discussed. So here basically the thing was the perfect management study basically, that is must basically. And for that basically, if you are thinking, then basically you require the blood cells. So blood cells basically is, if you want the good blood cells, then basically you have to purchase it basically. That is the Harvard Oxford group basically who sells the data basically you can say. That is the management data, that is basically called as Oxford blood cells. In the Oxford basically he has taken the admission in management side. So Oxford management blood cells, Harvard management blood cells, big level university blood cells, IIT's blood cells, IIM blood cells, IIM degree blood cells, like this basically things. So in next video basically I am going to see